Good day, beautiful people. I'm so happy to share this space once again in the Humminbird Hub. I'm Julia Fitisova, a co-founder of Humminbird Unlimited, a digital platform that helps the individuals who are involved in personal development to spread their message and have their voices heard. And today with us, we have Alex Roseman, an international multi-award winner, breakthrough coach that has written numerous books on enlightening subjects. And today he will be introducing to us the concept of a conscious circle. This is a tool that Alex believes is an invaluable tool in day-to-day life that helps us to stay grounded and connected. So I'm gonna pass it over to Alex to fill us in on this, and welcome to the journey once again. Let's start. So what is a conscious circle really? Like, what is it like? What is it being present?
Well, you know, it's funny when you put your intention on something and suddenly the universe gives you everything you need to understand that thing even more. So I got given a book, as you know, from Tina, and it was talking, funny enough, we come up with this concept, the conscious circle, and it's in this course that I created, like breaks it down into steps to really help people actually implement it. And with it, when you put your intention into something, the idea is obviously to bring you back to yourself. It's to have the home within yourself and take a responsibility to manage your own state so that you feel your vibrational match with your higher self, let's say. So that you could operate from that space rather than the scarcity, rather than from the amygdala where the blood flows to, and we're in fight or flight response, and we're not present. We're reacting rather than being in our higher form, our conscious, creative form, when we can see the solutions to things. Rather than being bogged down by problems and reacting, because if you're in that space, you just attract more of those problems, right? If you focus on bills, I've got bills to pay, you seem to attract more bills to pay. That's a very,
It's like where your focus flows.
Yeah, exactly, and it is that. But so what does that mean? How do you then implement it in a way that your life, you operate in this space every day, like you're in the flow? I'm sure you've been in the flow, everyone who's watching this, what it feels like to be in the flow, to be in the vortex, or whatever you call it. But it's how do you know if you're in it and you're not in it? So this way is about creating the contrast, to check in yourself, to go, am I in it right now? I'm not. And through the course, there's a way of obviously knowing from the beginning and to the end, so that you can check in yourself.
Funny enough, you said, how do I know when I'm in it, when I'm not in it?
Yeah.
When you're not in it, you don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know where you are.
Yeah,
it's only when yes, that's what it is. Only when you're in it, then you go, now I'm in it. Now I understand what goes on.
Right. But it's like it's free, because most people are just sort of bouncing around in and out. They feel like it just happens rather than actually going, you know what, you can create it. Put the power back into your hands. Because I know that feeling of reacting and just being out of circle. The circle was so far away, it was like a little dot. It was just like just didn't exist. I was so far away from it. And with that, my life reflected that. You're earning sort of like minimum wage, or you're struggling, or you're distracting yourself with alcohol or drugs or whatever it is, because you're so far away from being conscious. You're numbed out, right? And you're saying about self-healing earlier, how, well, you're saying the pharmaceutical companies and things like this, it's keeps you numb, keeps you out of your conscious circle, so you rely on them because it's a big money business, right? It keeps the world going round. The society is propped up on big companies like this. And who is it to them to blame? No, they built the system, and people need to take responsibility for themselves to bring themselves back into themselves, to not rely on it by things like believing you can self-heal, like you've done yourself. And watching it was beautiful to see the process, and to know that we all have that within us, but we're so disconnected. We're so far from our source, the source energy when we were, kids. We kind of had it there, but it was knocked out of us. And with the world being so busy for a lot of people watching this, in cities, it's very hard to be present when there's a lot of people around you.
That is true. That actually is the truth, because you are distracted. You're constantly distracted. You are dealing with somebody else's perceptions and projections of the world onto you or onto the environment. And it's that constant. What were you saying about so many bits of information that are coming in?
200 million bits of.
That's right. And then if you are in a big city, you are overstimulated with fabricated bits of information. Now, this is the bits of information that are of a certain reality that not necessarily, that can be distorted.
Yeah.
Because of the pressure of the big cities to kind of like survive, and you become part of the machine. You kind of dissolve into this like what we were saying before.
Well, it becomes like the blurred paintings. It's like just a splash of like just blurriness, Because I've done that. I've done the morning treks on the tube, packed out, and you could come as a monk back from the mountains and be enlightened, and come back after a week doing that. You will lose yourself with all of those mix of energies of people who just don't want to be where they are. They're going to a place that they don't want to be at. It's like, some sort of weird behaved learned slavery conditioned within ourselves. And I was there on the train, going there and coming back, and I'm going, the one thing I wanted when I was ever going to work was never to do that, and somehow I ended up doing it. And you're there doing it, that travel, that amount of people. When you get to your place of work, it takes half a day to try to shake that off anyway. And then you've got maybe a toxic environment where you at the work where you don't want to be at. I mean, that just builds up over time. It's hard to be present and conscious when you have that sort of stimulus around you that's maybe not positive, and everyone else is unconscious because they're going through the same thing.
That is very difficult, but it's like, it's again that amount of contrast can also bring out in you that much more consciousness. So we were talking about this last night, about 98% of the people of this world being unconscious, and only two of them being conscious.
2 people?
Yes.
Us 2. Welcome, guys. The 2% of the population, give or take, like, it's hard to know the numbers, and I'm sure it's popping up because more things like this are coming along. The idea of this, that people hear it and they go, it's taking people out the idea that they know anything. Because I tell myself, every time I learn something, I know nothing. I just feel like I'm starting afresh every single day.
But you know what it is, I have noticed, is that people are more prone to listen to things like the calls out for the awakening when they are in need of saving themselves. Very often at the rock bottom, very often at the lowest pit of their emotional or physical like despair.
Yeah.
And that's the need. That's the it's like a need stimulated then kind of like impulse to go, hang on a minute, I will try anything, whatever is out there. And that's when they kind of go and they start searching and they start looking for things that might speak to them. And that's the thing about this kind of work, because I believe that for each one of us, there is our own audience, right? So the way that you might bring out the same thing that have been spoken for millennia. Really, yeah. This is just us saying the same truth, but in a different format. But it's still many ways.
It's the energy, isn't it?
It's the energy.
It's a different energy that attracts.
It. Yes.
It resonates with different people.
Yeah.
We are spouting a lot of the same stuff. How it is portrayed and how people resonate with it. Some just have a bigger energy than others and attract more people on a global scale. But it's 100% right. The more of us are talking this way, the more of us are waking up, right? Being aware and being conscious and go, oh, actually, it is my responsibility for my health, for example. It's not to rely on the pharmaceuticals and things like this. It's how do I take the power back? People want convenience. It's convenient to pop a pill than it is to get moving.
They want short-term gratification. They want this fixed here and now because they have a goal to. They have to be on the run constantly because of the say the commitments to the outside world that they have made, actually enslaving and entrapping themselves. And what I have noticed also, it doesn't matter the amount of money that you've got if you are still conditioned by the idea that you need to work so hard. There is nothing wrong with working hard, and I have a lot of respect for people that do, but I do believe it's in the moments of pure love and pure pleasure that you actually get the rewards of this life, or you can give the most of. The rest is a distraction. We have an addiction to distraction in this world.
Well, it's funny, I was like literally reading this morning, and I love reading because right, when you hear something, is, as Socrates says, learning is just remembering. It's like we already know it, it resonates because we know, we just forgotten, right? Because it's the diamond within, and you have the muck around it. You just got to do our work to clear it up, right? And the world keeps throwing muck on, and we have to keep doing the work every day. And I was reading it this morning about the idea of when you're not present, you do get distracted by other things. You need to find moments of joy through materialistic things. Mm-hmm. Because if you have presence and you're with yourself, you're fulfilled, you do not need anything outside of yourself. Mm-hmm. You really don't. What do you need? But when you lose that part, when you're out your conscious circle, you look for anything to feel significant. We look for anything to get that moment, that illusion of feeling enough, excited, or whatever it is, enough. Because I was saying before, it's like there's a world out there trying to tell you that you're not enough, and there's something inside telling you that you're not enough. And once you get it and you confirm that I am enough, I'm worthy, I've got it, then you can really show up to be your true authentic self, because you're not worrying about what the world thinks of you anymore. And that's ultimate freedom. Then you get to express yourself, which is ultimately what everyone wants to do. They just never been able to create this safe space to be able to express themselves freely. And I remember that feeling of not knowing how to, because for me, I had the mask on. I knew I had layers protecting my core true self that I built up from my childhood, through my 20s, having to behave like a hard man, like even, and I'm sure a lot of guys can resonate with this, where they feel like they have to pretend to be something harder than they are because they're sensitive underneath, right? They feel like shameful of showing that part of themselves, right? You get vilified for being authentic, and being sensitive in some way. And so we have to overcompensate it with all these different things. It's like crutches here, there, and everywhere. Until I did uncovering the layers when I started the acting career, that's what really helped start the process of, I knew there was me underneath, I just didn't know how to get there. It was really weird. Like, I know there's a me in there, but I don't know how to get there. But I knew that starting the acting process, and I did something called Meisner, was the start of uncovering the mask.
So it was a therapy for you?
It was. 100%. When you are, because to be an actor, you need to be present, of course. But how can you be present when you're dealing with when you're in your own head and you're dealing with stuff, right? You've got your mask on. You can't put a character's mask over a mask, right? You can't put a character's mask over your own mask. You need to be able to learn how to remove your own mask and be present, be clear to put the character's mask on. And then you can be present with a character. So you can be with that character. And in order to do that, you need to work on yourself to be clear, a clear space. And I noticed that in acting and personal development, they're very similarly, they're close together. That's why the book I'm reading, I just started reading this morning, she was a trainer for actors and singers, and that's what she did. And then she brought it into to people who are not in that profession. Same thing, it was like presence on stage and off stage.
Well, as Shakespeare says, the whole life is a stage and people are actors, right?
Exactly.
And I think this is something that I have noticed you live by, the fact of...
Tell me more.
You know, the Alex Roseman show.
Oh, the Alex Roseman show. You can find that on NBC. I'm already thinking ahead, obviously.
But you really can't, no.
YouTube. So yeah, the Alex Roseman show. Please tell me more about this show. It sounds fascinating.
No, it's just the fact of actually that presence in your life, that you are present with yourself, and you're treating it as a stage, or you kind of like bring the awareness to everything that you do as if you are being observed. So you become the observed and the observer. I think that's the practice with the acting, actually, that kind of does do that healing part, where you become the observer and the observed. But as you have said before, that part about the acting career can be the fact that you feel that you might not be yourself in the moment when you need to act.
Well, the weirdest thing is, like, I am happy to speak in front of thousands of people. I've done that, right? Talking on stage, myself, and educating, talking, sharing my own personal life story. But then recently I did a script read. You know, I got a script, and there's like 4 people in the room, and I'm going red. You know, because like, they're going to find out I'm a fraud. Well, of course, Alex, you're acting. This is not who you actually are. But the idea of like being found out, it freaked me out.
Oh, it must be something deeply rooted. Huh?
Yeah, it's for a lot of people, especially for actors, funny enough. I was watching Actors Round Table, and Renée Zellweger was doing, she just won an Oscar, you know, for Jane? I'm not sure what it is.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, she was saying, like, next, you know, every project she gets going, is this the one where they find out? Is this one where they, you know, they find out that I'm a fraud? Like, Johnny Depp.
Oh, what an inner conflict.
Yeah, but it's like that, in a way, could be powering the source of doing the work, you know, where you're doing extra work to work extra hard for them not to find out, or whatever it is. However they use it, she obviously does very well. That conflict, it creates, I guess, a real dynamic and a real sort of thinking process when you see the character on stage or on screen. So it keeps her on her toes. And so it's a dichotomy of going, do you just completely clear it and go, oh, this is fine, I'm great, I know I'm great? Or do you keep that feeling of being human, because it's what we all can relate to when we watch it on screen? So it's, what do you lose? What don't you lose? And I feel it comes up when I'm reading a script. So I think it'd be great for a lot of people to take it up, just to deal with what comes up, and knowing it's, if you're doing that in your life right now, then you are playing a part in your own life. You know, that if you get that feeling like you're a fraud or something in your own life, I feel like that may be a wake up clue that you're not living who you truly are. You are acting out the way you think you need to, or you should do. Anytime you hear yourself saying you should do this or you should do that, that's again a wake-up call to go, who's telling me that? What a minute, who is this? The voice because my parents told me when I was a kid, or is this the society telling me that? What do I actually want? And it may take some time to figure that out, but isn't that why we're here? You know, just to figure out who we are, to express that part, the closest part we can to the source, to the conscious circle, and staying in that space and expressing that out, because that's the gems. That's when you're present and you can expand that to people will live through that presence.
Oh, absolutely. I think presence is the rarest commodity. I mean, like that, as we said before, you actually said it earlier yourself, that, you know, that that presence can be so healing. Just observing and not judging, which I would call unconditional love. You know, it's where you are with the person and you just there with them and for them.
It's funny you say that, because it's so true, and maybe people who are listening to this can relate. When you're a kid, you know, or in toxic relationships, you feel like you're judged for everything. And when you're with someone who doesn't do that, the like PTSD is like the post-traumatic stress disorder is still there. So when you do something where you usually get vilified, and in a new relationship that's a conscious relationship, the person doesn't judge you and has an open space of love. It's kind of alien, like you're like some bewildered, hurt child, like, I'm not getting told off. Yeah, it's like, and then you feel like your heart then opens up because you have the space to go, oh, I am enough. I am worthy. I'm not a bad human being. And it's still sort of, plays out, right?
It's a habit.
Yeah, and we take that into, and if you're unconscious, take it into relationships, that very thing you're scared of, that you from your childhood, you attract that from the other person, right? That fear. Like if you're fearful from a dog, the dog will go for you. It sort of happens unconsciously in an unconscious relationship. That's why doing this work, and you can bring it into any new relationship, you know yourself enough to go, actually, this doesn't feel right, and I trust myself to know that. It doesn't mean I'm not enough and I need to stay in it because I'm not enough. I know I'm enough for a reason, going, this doesn't vibe well with me. I have the capacity and the courage to step away from it. But how you talk to yourself, if you're really mean to yourself, then of course you're going to be with someone who can be mean to you, but
you still stay there.
You stay there because they haven't surpassed the meanness that you are to yourself. We can be really cruel to ourselves, so we don't really notice when someone's cruel to us because we're worse to ourselves. Until you do that work and that inner dialogue changes, that world will still reflect back to you the meanness that you're willing to take.
Yeah.
And when you're kind to yourself, you go, I am enough, I am standing up for myself. You suddenly go, wait a minute, I'm not dealing with this crap anymore.
Yeah.
And you suddenly stand up for yourself and you go and build the life you deserve.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, that it's stepping over. It's stepping over those boundaries. I think that defines personal development, spiritual growth, whatever. It's constantly having to face that fear that was in the way of you going on to the next level, and then onto the next level, and onto the next level. But at that point in time, when you're facing that fear, it feels like the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then having to look it in the eyes and go, what, I'll survive no matter what. And kind of having that trust in yourself to have to go through this, it just pushes you on to the next dimension. It actually adds a dimension to your living, and it adds more and more dimensions. And this is why a conscious relationship is so valuable in that sense, because you can actually share that experience with another person. You don't feel the need to have to, you don't feel the need to have to purify that darkness that keeps coming in, but you rather just reflect back to the one another the best versions of yourself.
It's funny, like even in that moment listening, and you know the difference between someone who's with you and it switches off.
Yes, that's
true. We were talking about it earlier, and how there is that. Some people can't explain it, because if you're unconscious and you know someone's not with you, like you know that they're not with you, the connection is sort of off, and it happens with men in relationships. Women, from what I know of, the biggest thing they want is just a man's presence.
So true.
More than anything else.
More than anything.
And most men...
Actually, it depends, though. Depends on the woman, but...
Yeah, but it's like when you have the man's presence and the full... They're with you, it can fill you up. And as a man as well, you want the presence. Someone's on their phone, or if you're on a date and one's on the phone and you're having an intimate Valentine's evening and the other one's disconnected, it becomes really awkward and can be rather devastating, right? If the other person's just not there, because you're in a relationship and you're alone, and it's the most loneliest of lonely feelings because you haven't got the presence of the other person, and that flower will start to wilt and die. And that's how powerful presence is. As a child, having the presence of a mother and a father is all that child ever wants, right? Because they feel so alive and protected and loved. And presence is love, right? It's being there for someone, but you haven't got your phone here in front of you, or your phone's in your hand and you're talking to someone. That person unconsciously knows that phone is more important to that person than they are. And Simon Sinek talks about it, and you put your phone aside and go, my phone's over there, hey, how you doing? I'm with you. Send that person, I feel really important. I feel really heard and listened to. And I think that's just so, maybe it's underrated at the moment, but that the idea of just giving that to someone, that if you can bring that, it is a rare commodity. And if you can work on yourself to be able to give that presence to people, then that gives them the space to feel like they're heard and they can heal themselves through it, maybe on an unconscious level. But it's so powerful, isn't it? That energy, that idea someone's really with you. And the difference when someone's not, and you think that you're the kind of people who should be, and they're not, and you're like, you suddenly just don't want to be around there anymore because you don't feel important. You feel like, am I just the stuff in the bottom of your shoe here that I should, I don't want to be around it. And it's for me, that's so important to cultivate, and it's the most precious gift, especially now with so many distractions, obviously TV and the phone, having that presence, right?
And actually pausing whatever it is that you're doing when somebody you care about has something to say.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Literally pausing.
Literally pausing.
Pause TV. Tell me more about this. Yeah, it's like that. It's like, oh, they actually want to listen to what I have to say.
That is the most, like, I don't know. It's a nice feeling to know that somebody is there with you. And there is a very big difference, though, when people are. We're talking about the level of giving in the relationship, or 3 levels of relationship that Tony Robbins was speaking about. I don't know if I can paraphrase it precisely, but as far as I remember, the first level of relationship is when each one for their own.
Horse trading.
It's the second one.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, each one. Oh, yeah.
It's one for them. It's I'm looking after my
me,
own
and there's
needs.
Nothing. Yeah.
I'm just there for myself, and you there to serve to my needs, right? And it's the most common dynamic between a narcissist and an empath, right? Which what they call nowadays, because I think there's a lot more layers to that. But that what I would say the labeling would be. Where the narcissist again, it's such a fluid term, but where it's really there because of the trauma that happened in the childhood, they really do need that their needs are looked after that point in time, and it's just their needs. And the empath is actually doing the same trauma, literally having the same traumatic imprint, but reacting by just focusing on the other person. So it looks like at that point in time, both of the needs are kind of met, not kind of, but people are there. At first, it looks like the right dynamic because that one wants his needs to be satisfied, and the other one only does what satisfies the other's needs. But what happens in that level of relationship, it creates a certain dependency. Right? It creates a certain projection. It creates expectations. All the vices that are out there for the reason why the relationships nowadays fail. Right? So that kind of dynamic of the very big distortion of literally repeated trauma. That would be the first one. Now the second one is, I will do for you this if you do for me that. And they're all intertwined. But anyways, I'm providing a service for you, kind of like, I will look after this, and this for you, but then can you do this and this for me? Again, this is the kind of relationship that is, again, not authentic enough, because what happens there is that the heart center is not present. You're actually there looking after the immediate needs, right? Now, the third level of relationship is the rarest of all, and is the most satisfying. Is where you're looking after the other one's needs, both. So you are there.
Well, you're not doing it to get something.
You're not
giving,
not a manipulation.
you're giving.
Yeah, it's not a manipulation. It's not an expectation. It's just a free flow of actually just being.
And to be able to give from that space, it's to be able to have the capacity to be able to give. That's why it's not about judging other people.
No.
Because, we might feel like, oh, my father didn't love me or my mother didn't love me. Where it's like, well, they did love you, but it was in the capacity of that what they knew how to love. So rather than looking at it as a victim state, right, of like, I'm not lovable. It's like that's their capacity based on their own childhood conditioning and experience. That's what they could give you at that time. It's now your responsibility to go beyond that and transform it, right? Not take that into your family, into your children, so they have to deal with it because you are still holding on to the fact that I wasn't loved. It's okay, let's get beyond that. Let's rise above it. Let's work on yourself and go, okay, that's the real fact of the situation. That's their capacity. Every child has that within them to be able to love. But over time, conditioned like erosion from the sea on the rocks, been eroded down, and that's what's been left with. And it's from our work that we came from that place to go, right, I get to find myself all over again, and to bring that into the next relationship. Because we've been in relationships, I'm sure, where we have been stage 1, 2, and then getting to the third stage, right? But you got to go through those stages to recognize it, right? But when you're unconscious, you're unconscious. Hopefully people listening to this are to go, oh, what stage am I in? And they're like, okay, maybe I should do something about it. And you can, right? Because I've been on stage 1 and then go all the way to the top stage. But you need that for yourself as well, right? Because there's that kind of give and take, including yourself.
Reflection. It's the reflection of your relationship with yourself. So I think the third level relationship would probably reflect the purified form of the trauma that turned into a gift eventually. And then that's like the gift you give to yourself. And then that's the gift to share with another. And having to reach the level of relationship where there is no expectations, where there is no blame, where there is no projection of any kind of fears or whatever. Sorry, I know you get it right. That's that freeing space.
Yes, it is.
But it's practically impossible to reach from a level of pain.
Yeah, but you know what? When you go through pain and you go into a space like rock bottom or whatever it is, that wake up call, it's better to go there if you can just handle it and not, go anywhere and check out the game. Go there, like I've been there, and to climb up again. Because if you stay in the middle, where you kind of become sort of cynical and it just becomes like this toxicity that runs through you.
People.
Yeah, and then you just hate people, and then you just sort of live your life that way, and that's just the way it is. And you close yourself off. That's the world, and that's it. You don't open yourself up to anything. But at least when you get the rock bottom, you kind of go, you know what I'm doing, it just ain't working. And then you can transform that and become...
How many people can be... We're going to have to leave this for the next one, but how many people can be honest with themselves that, you know what, this...
Well, instead of doing that and then going like this...
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, when you guys, you're their fault. They say that, wait a minute.
But then there's 3 fingers pointing at your back, right?
Yeah. 3, 5, both hands, really. It's me! Yeah, until next time.
On that level, on that note. Thank you guys for being here with us.
Thank you.
We enjoyed sharing, I guess, our experiences with you, and in the hopes of adding to your conscious circle and your consciousness and awareness, because really our intention is just to be present, for ourselves, for each other, and for you guys. So
yeah, beautiful. Very beautifully put.
What you gonna do?
Bye.